Hi everybody, we're here today to talk to Shanne Connolly. Shanne is going to lead some workshops at the Scottish Taiko Festival, and he's also going to perform with his group, Issho Taiko Drummers. And we're here just really to get to know you a little bit better and just have a chat about what you do. So, all the workshops, so obviously you're going to be doing taiko workshops but also non-taiko workshops at the festival. So do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about what you do in general?
Yeah, kind of, because that might link into why I'm doing the workshop that I'm doing, but yeah.
Okay, great, go for it.
So in general, I guess I'm kind of an artist. I'm a bit of a maker, sculptor, and also a puppeteer. So I'm going to be running a puppet making workshop for kids at the festival, and the reason I'm a puppeteer is because I was playing taiko at the Fringe for a full run, and after the run every day was a French puppet theatre company.
Oh wow.
And I got really friendly with those guys. I used to go and sketch all their puppets. They did I think it was the Ramayana, it was some Hindu epic thing they did with the shadow puppets. And anyway, I got really friendly with them, and they said to me, look, why don't you come to Glasgow at the end of the festival, because we were meeting a friend there who runs a puppet theatre, and come for dinner and meet this guy anyway, and that was kind of my way into puppetry, because I did go to that, and I met a really amazing guy, Malcolm Knight, who runs a puppet theatre in Glasgow, and he was really, really interested in taiko, and but anyway, that's when I stopped performing professionally and studied theatre, puppet theatre. They ran a course in puppet theatre arts, and I joined that course, and yeah.
Wow. Okay, so it was due to taiko that you got into puppeteering.
Yeah.
That's quite cool.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and what about the bunraku workshop? Is that something you then went on to explore later? Because that's a Japanese type of,
It's a traditional Japanese puppet theatre, and it's but you will find it in European theatre as well. It's just basically 3-person operated puppets, and really just when you mentioned the festival to me and said, hey, what can you bring? Can you bring anything? Everything was on the, put everything on the table and see what we want, what we don't want. But it made me think of, certainly relating to Japan, and it's something that I could offer, and it's really, really interesting workshop of just movement, and you've got like one person on the legs, one person on an arm and a head, and the other person on the arm, so you're kind of working in sync through breath and gesture and movement, and I hope that if the workshop comes off, we would make our own puppets, just very crude, very simple, very basic structures, and just there'll be little scenarios to try and reenact, and it'll be half the class will be observing and feeding back to those who are performing, and we change around. Someone will be on the head, someone will be on the feet. We'll alter that around. But
so as part of the workshop, people would make their puppets, but then also learn how to perform them. And
the making side of it would be quite brief. So it's mostly in the movement and the gesture and the breath, and just kind of what's reading and what's working, and when these figures are more effective. So anyone that's interested in drama or mask or movement would enjoy it, and from ages, I think we said like 10 or 12 up or something, a wee bit older.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So and on the Sunday you've got a puppet making workshop, but for kids, for younger.
For the littler ones. I had a demo, but I don't know where it's gone.
Maybe we can pause the camera. You can go and get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can go and get it.
So, and as if by magic, you now have a puppet
Hey.
So this is the kind of thing that you're going to be doing on the Sunday workshop. And are you also going to talk about how to teach the kids how to use it and not?
Yeah. I mean, this one's more on the construction, but certainly, you know, they'll have little, they'll have some help as to how to move the mouth. You know, it's kind of a lip syncing puppet. Hello. So everything's done in syllables. So if you counted to 11, you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11. Yeah. So the idea is, and they'll have little costumes, and you can put your hand through it and, you know, pick things up.
Oh, brilliant! That sounds like a lot of fun, actually.
So so these are going to be little Japanese demons. I think we said we would create. So there's a whole host of Japanese demons that we can find our favourite demon and make one of these guys.
Brilliant.
Yep.
Brilliant. That's going to be a lot of fun. Okay. And then for the taiko players.
For the taiko players, I'm going to be running a Fukui workshop. I also played with Mugenkyo, like a lot of people did here in Scotland. Mugenkyo moved up, and I joined them. I was the very first person to join them when they moved up to Scotland. That was in 2000. 2000. Yep. Started, I think it was 2000. Was it?
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, good chunk of time ago. And in fact, it was not that long ago that Neil reminded me, or actually pointed out, that I was the very first professional Scottish taiko drummer. Hey. So that's gone on my CV. So I'll run a workshop Fukui style, because we were really lucky to have Masaki Kurumaya Sensei, who was their teacher, and we had him here on a cultural visa, and I pretty much got one-to-one tuition with Kurumaya Sensei when we weren't performing, when we weren't out on the road. Mugenkyo at that stage, Neil and Yuki in the office, super busy, get Shane off to the shed, with Sensei. So that was just. So
that was really lucky. You got all that time.
It's totally amazing, and he's a remarkable man and incredible player, and it was just that whole way of you just. We stayed, when he was here, I shared B&B with him. We travelled together, and it was all about that. Just kind of learning through being, off the drum, on the drum. But because he's got a whole mentality about not, drumming is not just drumming, but is everything else. Did you guys have to do meditation and that kind of thing, or not so much? Not so much meditation, but certainly at that point when I was kind of with him, and when I was sharing rooms with him, when he knew what he was doing to me, so that he had a lot of time where he would focus on his breath, on lying still, or he used to have these amazing goggles with all these kind of really weird like light shows going on, where he would just sit. He'd do stuff with his ears. He would spend like an hour on an ankle every night,
Wow.
But I don't know if he lived up. I think he probably did live like that. But he was also doing that for me, because he was making me aware of, just being.
It's really kind of mindfulness.
Exactly, and that rubbed off, and we would train. I tried to keep really fit during that period. There was lots of running, and I really embraced that whole side of it. Certainly. But in terms of being on the drum, he really broke me, I would be soaking wet and greeting and covered in blisters.
Oh my goodness.
And he was like, I just went like, and then he'd get faster and faster. I was just like, I would just like fall over, and that was the way, and it was great, fair enough, you're gonna learn the hard way, but he was also a very kind man, and and really supportive and really encouraging, and like super encouraging. He was he was always really happy with me as well. He'd point out when I was doing good enough. Which I think you really need from a mentor. You don't constantly want to feel like you're just failing all the time. But he can be quite a harsh
teacher, can't he?
Yeah.
You know, if you're not doing something right, he's not shy of telling you.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, if he cares about you.
I think so.
I get that I got that feeling certainly when I had the opportunity to train with him. But then after that, I found that as well. You would have, you know, first he puts you down and then he says, but you know, here's the way you can do it right. Did you find that?
Yeah, I did, and yeah, I guess so. But also, I think as well. Yeah, I think like Westerners, we want to learn quickly as well. We want to move on to that thing or that style or that pattern or that, and you know, and Kurumaya was great in that sense, in that you'd almost be a little bit at arm's length a lot of the time, you know, but he knew when you were ready and when you weren't ready, you know. You felt you were ready and you thought you were ready, but he knew really, you know, you just weren't quite up to that speed. So so I'm not sure if that answers that question. It's
interesting because I think I've said this to you before. You know, obviously, you know, I used to be in Moginki as well, and you know, we used to play Hokuriku style, and there's lots of groups in Europe actually that play Hokuriku style, and lots of people that do it. But I remember when I first saw you play at the Celtic Connections. You're doing the Taiko do Salaparta show. And there was one piece where you started doing, you know, bachi sabaki and kind of moving across the floor and doing this kind of stuff, and I was like, oh my God, it's Kurumaya Sensei! It's Kurumaya Sensei moving, you know. And I've said this before. I've never seen anybody move like Kurumaya Sensei until I saw you move. And I've never seen anything move like that since, you know. So is that something you spent a lot of time on as well, kind of? Watching him.
I think I could probably even tell you what piece that would have been, because you know, our set's quite varied, you know. But we have a fast Mitsuichi piece, and I think probably a lot of Kurumaya feels like he comes out in me at those points, you know, when I'm in that piece, because he was. I mean, I'm not saying I am, but he was really. Mesmerising to watch, you know, and it was just as much of when he was off the drum to when he was on the drum, and also he was so fast in his hands, you know. There was so much speed, and I think I've always tried to emulate as much as I can of him, as you would, you know, because he was as good as it gets, you know. And but not only was he fast when it was strong and heavy, or even when it was fast, you know, he was fast, you know, and the piece could be quite slow, but he had speed there, you know. And then we do, and a lot of his play on the drum, a lot of the contact on the drum was full of light. I think I mentioned a little bit in my blurb for the workshop. It was full of light and shade, full of colour, and I think that's the key. That was the key for me when I went to Japan, when I played with the group. That seemed to be throughout. There's times where they were big movements, but there was very little sound, so they chose their moments, you know. They chose just when they would just kick in that key energy, that really strong patterns, those really strong hits. And they weren't throughout, you know, they were just little moments, just little light and shade, little colour, but the movement was always there. The movement was always, it looked like it was really, really hard hitting, but there was just those really, really incredible way of it's colour, slight and shade, just when you wanted to emphasise key parts to it. So
it's interesting because I suppose a lot of people identify big movement with big sound.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, and
making big movement in small or textured sound or light and shadow is quite difficult.
Yeah, and you know, to try and strike that drum gently with your coming from way up there at the speed you do, but you're not hitting it hard, you know. It's like this is wonderful. Yeah,
so moving on to your workshop then, what kind of things, well, first of all, I mean, we've been talking about Kurumaya Sensei and Hokuriku style, but actually maybe some people out there don't know what Hokuriku style is. So how would you describe it? How would you describe that style for someone who who's never heard of it?
I mean, it's kind of like, well, I don't know, I think for me, it's these sort of bass rhythms. Well, there's a Shibaroka rhythm and Mitsuichi, which I mentioned, there's a 3-hit rhythm. There's lots of hidden cues in there for players. It's pretty generally can be quite full on, flat out. I mean, at its best for me, it is upright, and just really soloing, lots of soloing as well. Yeah, don't know, can't think what.
Lots of soloing, lots of improvisation.
Lots of built-in cues just to help you out. But
would you say that's
just kind of jaw-dropping, really? Like,
lots of personal expression. And,
I mean,
that's
part of Taiko, isn't it? Just to try and get your character out. You know, we can all learn to play patterns, but it's a little bit about how much of you can we get out as well, and that's important.
Okay, so is that what you're gonna be doing at your workshop? Get a wee sneak preview?
None of that at all. No. I've written a couple of patterns for the workshop, so hopefully they're quite interesting. I want to try and mix it up, so these patterns will run alongside one another, or they run independently of one another. We're going to get players playing juji with it and swapping that around with little built-in cues so that they can keep it moving, and we'll play at varying speeds as well. So I mean, it's down to the level of the players and what they want to get as well, and hopefully, I'm really up for folk bringing something else to the day as well, and maybe we can.
That's the Hokkaido way.
That is the Hokkaido way. Yeah. It's.
What about bachi sabaki and cross hands and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, well,
maybe a bit of that, or
a bit of cross hand. The sections that I've written can be played. One of them can be played with cross hand as well. So, if we've got enough drums, depending on how many,
we'll have enough drums.
We'll have enough drums. So then, definitely a little bit of cross hand as well would be nice. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Great. So, how long was Kurumaya Sensei here? Touring with you guys?
He was here for the full duration that I was with the group, so 2 years. For a 2-year period. I'm very lucky to secure a cultural visa for him to be here, and that coincided with myself and another apprentice, Jen, at that time, starting off. So we would get that really personal, like one-to-one kind of tuition with him. So.
And then you went to Japan, or you went to Japan?
I went to
during that period.
I went during that period, and I travelled a little bit with Hibiki, with Kurumaya's group at that time, Hibiki Daiko, and stayed in the family.
So you got to play with Hibiki Daiko?
I didn't perform with them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't perform with them, but I did play. I did rehearse with them. Just a really high level. It was just amazing. It's like Sensei was, Kurumaya was just, so great. And then you go in there and you're meeting another like 2 players equally, really amazing. So that was really lovely to play. And their dojo was kind of open at the front, all the beautiful snow-capped mountains, and the whole experience was just something else. Just being under his wing, and he was quite a big shot in Japan. I hadn't quite realised when he was here. He's kind of quite a humble man at times, and obviously with the language barrier, and his kind of broken English, and Miyuki translating a lot whilst he was here. But to be there, you could just see really how he operated, I wasn't really prepared for that. But it was nice. It was really nice for him to show me just how he operates and how things work for him there. So it was amazing.
It was great. And you got to meet his family, and
I stayed with the family, Saori and Kaori, his daughters, and his wife.
A privilege.
And his mother lived there then, and we'd cooked together, and I made them porridge, and they cracked an egg into it. And,
Heathens!
I know. I made them a big curry and stuff, so it was a really, really amazing experience.
Really fond memories for you.
Yeah, and I think I learnt so much from that trip. I mean, it wasn't long; it was just a few weeks, but I learnt so much just being with him. Again, just being with him and just studying under him, and from the other members of the Biki, and I met a couple of really young guys as well who played, and they were so inspiring. So yeah, the whole trip was it was amazing.
What was that you're doing?
Well, thanks for listening, folks.
Well, thanks for listening, and we hope to see you at the Taiko Festival, and come along and try out the Hokuriku style workshop and the Bunraku puppet making and performing workshop and the demon making workshop for the little ones, and I hope you enjoy it and have fun, and we'll see you there.
And the Issho, you mentioned Issho, you did mention Issho.
And Issho! And the Issho performance on Saturday at 1 o'clock, I think it is, isn't it? Yes, I'm pretty sure it's 1 o'clock. So come along to that, and because that's something quite different. Yeah. I think some people will find. So I think that'll be a nice surprise for people.
Yeah, I think it. Yeah, it's a shame we don't have the full quota, but it'll be good enough. I'm sure there's still enough going on to merit a trip to Aberfoyle and not have to fork out very much money.
Perform for other taiko players.
That'd be nice. Yeah,
it'd be good. Be good to share what you've been working on. So great. So see you then.
Thank you, Joe.
And see you then.